Well, hi, my name's Steve Kilburn. I am the Grant Projects Director at the Chautauqua County Department of Mental Hygiene. And as a part of that work, I oversee the Chautauqua Substance Abuse Response Partnership. This is a collaborative work of multiple agencies across Chautauqua County, ranging from prevention to treatment to recovery to harm reduction. All these agencies working collaboratively, closely together to combat addiction here in our county. During this pandemic, we have been putting together a series of videos that are aimed at informing folks about what services are still available, some of the changes that have been necessary, but how help remains available and to get information out to people. Well, today I am very pleased that the police chief of the Jamestown Police Department, Harry Snellings, is able to join us to share some information about current circumstances from his perspective. Thank you so much for taking time out of what I know is a busy schedule to share a little bit about what you and your officers are seeing here in the midst of the pandemic. But in particular, I wanted to ask you about the reports that we've seen and of course have been publicly reported now about a spike in overdoses here, especially in the month of March. Is that consistent with what your officers are seeing out on the street right now?
It is, Steve. I know countywide there was 45 for the month of March. I just ran our numbers prior to our meeting, and for the month of March up to today's date, we've responded to 32 here in the city. Fortunately, we haven't had any overdose deaths that I'm aware of here in the city, but I know they've occurred outside.
Yeah, there have been, in addition to those many overdoses. Any thoughts on what might account for this recent spike?
Well, again, it's speculation, but I think there's a direct correlation between the significant increase in fentanyl that we're seeing, and we're seeing it being mixed with all types of drugs. Traditionally it's been cut with heroin, but we're also finding it in methamphetamine and cocaine. So I think a lot of people with addiction issues are buying product that they have no idea what they're getting, which has led to the significant increase in overdoses. And of course, the added anxiety with this COVID-19 and some of the stay-at-home orders are adding to that. Again, there's speculation. There's a lot of potential reasons to it. We've also heard there's been some potential supply issues on the drug side, so people are just basically buying whatever they can purchase.
Yeah, we've been hearing from other accounts as well that at this point, if somebody's using drugs, they should probably assume it's got fentanyl in it.
Yes, we've seen quite a bit.
Yeah. And I think one of the other things that some of the data, especially recently, has shown is that when first responders are on the scene of an overdose, that it's not enough, and perhaps because of the fentanyl, to use just a single dose of the Narcan, that the power and the strength of this drug is now requiring, an overdose is requiring multiple doses. Is that something too that your officers are seeing?
Yeah, we've seen that. And again, I think it's directly related to fentanyl. Quite a few of the calls that we responded to, they've had to administer multiple doses of Narcan.
One of the things we want to get out to the public is that if they are a witness, to an overdose, that well, first of all, that they would have Narcan with them, and that they would have gotten that in advance, which is available here in the community. But also that they would call 911. What would you say to the person that's like, oh, I don't know if I want the police to come? I mean, obviously drugs have been involved here. But there's a real risk when they don't call for help. What would you want to say, to somebody in that dilemma?
Sure. Well, again, I just remind everyone the Good Samaritan law is still in effect. So it was put in place to encourage people to call to try to prevent overdose deaths. And again, not calling could ultimately lead to someone dying.
Yeah, exactly. We definitely encourage people to have Narcan on hand, but to also call and get help. And not least of all, because Narcan works for a limited period of time, and it can work for less time than the drug, especially fentanyl, can work. So in other words, to revive somebody with a single dose or even a couple of doses of Narcan doesn't mean that they're going to be okay after that wears off. So I think, Chief, one of the things I've been really impressed with as I've heard you speak over the even couple of years or more about the opioid crisis here is that your officers are rightly aiming at the dealers and getting that drug off the streets. But as far as the sort of end user, the person with struggling with a substance use disorder, I've heard a very kind of different message, namely the encouragement to get help. Do you want to share anything about that again?
Sure. I mean, again, that's a key component to addressing this issue. Otherwise, it's a continuous vicious cycle. So we continue to encourage treatment. Again, we want to make sure everybody understands that treatment is an essential service, and those resources are still available to everyone, and we encourage them to seek it out.
Yeah, great. And I think that when we understand that, our police force is also encouraging people to find the help and would point them in that direction if they were given the opportunity, I think that's really, really key. Well, Chief, again, I really appreciate you taking some time. I know you're busy. Anything else that you would just want to share with the community relative to issues related to addiction right now?
Again, just we encourage everyone to seek treatment, seek help if they need it, and just to remind them that those resources are still available. Because I know there's a lot of confusion out there right now of what's considered an essential business and what's open and what's not. But any kind of medical treatment is still available to you.
Yes, exactly. And we've been in other videos trying to reinforce that point, that all of those services, with some differences in their provision, but they are all available. So.
Sure.
Well, on behalf of the whole community, Chief, thank you and your force so much. Again, I know you guys don't have the luxury of working from home. You guys are out there on the front lines every day and doing it in the midst of some pretty difficult circumstances. So I just want to say really a heartfelt thank you to all of you guys and gals out there doing that hard work. So thank you very much.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for viewing this, our latest installment of our video series, Let's Heal Together, Conversations to Combat Addiction. Stay well, everyone.